Hi guys, it's Blair here and I'm going to do a video about my first week using The Right to Write by Julia Cameron. And I know it's the 8th today, but I've been sort of moving into my course that I'm doing at the moment, which is a Moon Daughter course. So I'm doing that and sort of working out where I'm meant to be with all that sort of thing. But it was a very interesting writing week, and I really do have to thank jumping back into this book again because I think it really did kickstart some of the, well, not so much kickstart, but let me face my resistance to writing. And one of the biggest things that I learned about myself and my writing this week is that because I'm such a multifaceted creator, I do feel more resistance when I put too much focus on writing. Um, and it's a very interesting and complex thing because as a student in university who is studying writing, there is an emphasis on, learning writing, um, doing essays and all the academic side of things. And then there's a part of me that is a storyteller, a novelist, a poet, just a general overall story person. And then there's another side of myself which all blends in together, which is a tarot reader, a tarot lover, and I read story within the tarot. That's how I connect with the tarot. I create stories with it, I create poems with it, I create stories of my own life to understand what's going on in my life. And so all those threads kind of weave together really interestingly this week. And one of the big things that happened too was I actually got out of the house. I have been going through a bit of depression lately, but getting out of the house has been really, really good. And so I will go through the chapters that I did read, and I started to read the next few. And so I read, if I can show you guys, I read Begin, Let Yourself Write, Let Yourself Listen, and The Timeline. And I think the chapter, or the, invitation, I guess you can say, as assignment that I found the most helpful was the timeline. What I actually did, and the exercise that she gets you to do, is to spend some time writing these postcards. Instead of writing postcards, I actually had some cards, like some stationery gift cards. And I wrote letters to all the women in my life at the moment that have come into my life that have made a really big impact in the way that I present myself in the world, how I address myself, how I've come back to myself. They have supported me in starting my YouTube channel again. They supported me in deck swapping and just talking and getting to know me. And I really like to do the same with a few people overseas as well. And I wrote that in like really late in like the morning, and I really found that it was really nourishing and what I needed, because sometimes I tell myself, you need to focus on other things. You need to focus on just this novel, or just your assignments, or just this. And I think it's the sort of lie that I don't have enough time to do that, or it's not the right time. And it's more so it's not the right time frame of mind. I have had issues in the past, and it always crops up too, which I'm working with as well, where I will, I know my cycle, I'm such a night owl, so it's made it difficult going back to university and having to get up really early and whatnot. But I'm such a night owl creative that when I do feel inspired at like 2 o'clock in the morning, I've been sort of training myself to say, no, don't create, go to sleep. You've got work tomorrow, you've got to get up and do your thing. And that's fine, because obviously if I did that too many times, I would be exhausted and I wouldn't be able to go to school. But for me, it's more important that I don't tell that lie to myself. I don't create that story around my writing, that I just write. If I feel like writing, I write. And I've also come to acknowledge that I love my prompts. I had a real sort of difficult relationship with prompts and writing as well, because sometimes my ego likes to think that I can do everything by myself, and I can, create things by myself. But sometimes I really love having questions or prompts or challenges that actually make me think about things that maybe I haven't thought about. And what I've been doing is looking at the questions and practicing how I could reframe that question to suit my needs. A couple of things that I write down, because I've actually started writing in the margins of this book because it's so old and I've read it so many times that it's really nice to actually be able to just really get into having a dialogue with what I'm reading and what I want to explore and express and go deeper into. And so some of the questions I actually asked beneath the timeline, um, which she pointed out, are you a victim of time? And this kind of really played out really interesting when I was watching a recent video by Kellyanne Maddox, who was talking about resistance and that lie of time, and sort of really setting aside, like if you've got a goal, like you want to write a novel, and it's, your ego or your depression or whatever is playing into resistance, it thinks that you need to do this massive chapter. And I never really used to have problems with chapters. I used to be able to just, but that was then. This is now. And it really related to that, because sometimes I just need to sit down and go, I've got 15 minutes. In 15 minutes, I know I can write 2 pages. In an hour, I'll have 8 pages written. But I need to write those 2 pages first to get me started. And so because I'm doing the shadow work and like really in my body and in my mind now, I ask myself these questions about time, because time has always been one of those things that I have been like, you know, I need to go to work, I need to go to school, I need to do this, I need to do that, when it's less about the outside and more about the inside, and really what I want to experience with the time that I actually do have, because time is not the enemy. Even though my ego would like to think it is when it comes to writing. And so the questions that I wrote is it threatening to me to make writing a higher priority, to begin creating space for it in my life? And so that was one of the focuses of this week. It was making that space in my life, not to put it above everything else, but just to make writing in whatever form, creating in whatever form, a priority above my own ego and um, above feeling lost with my writing, if that makes sense to you guys. And so to just relearn to connect with it, to listen to what I want to write and what comes out. And the other question was, what do I feel threatens me? And I mean, I think that's the thing. It's like what threatens my writing time is all self-created. And I wanted to read you a couple of quotes that I really enjoyed that really struck something in me. So the first one is, what if there was no such thing as a writer? What if everyone simply just wrote? I find that sometimes by labeling myself as a writer, I do get stuck. Sometimes I need to step back from that terminology and just say that I am a human who is writing, who is a storyteller, who loves to adventure, who loves to put pen to paper, who is passionate about that. That's, taking away those ideas that are attached to the term of writer. And I've discovered that since I have been in this course, my idea of a writer has been shifting and changing, because I'm being confronted with what the ideal writer would be, and I've never really connected with the whole traditional frame of what that is. And part of that is because I understand wholly that I need to be learning things. That's what I'm here for. I'm here as a learner for life. But it's also about honoring myself as what kind of writer I am. And I'm a storyteller. I just love stories and myths and creating them and finding them and reading into them and analyzing them and pulling them apart and, using them as a foundation to build upon my life with. So the idea of becoming a writer, it can sometimes be very, very, very overwhelming because to me it's just my soul. Like my soul is just a person who writes, and there's so much attached to that. The other thing is I have learned to let patterns reveal themselves instead of demanding that they have a logical flow at the time. I realize that a lot of my issues around writing come from trying to overplan and really dictate what I'm supposed to be writing. Now, this works with some things. It works with analytical pieces. It works with academic pieces where you need to be um, providing evidence and quotes and citations and things like that. That doesn't work for me when it comes to things like creating spreads or um, writing scenes or meditations. Or I have I have changed my idea around what it means to create things and create patterns. And for me, being a pagan and being a spiritual practitioner and being a tarot reader, I have learned what kind of patterns are and where to find different things, and I've just had to really let go and see where those things interconnect with each other, because that is how I interpret my inspiration. And lastly, if we eliminate the word writer, if we just go back to writing as an act of listening and naming what we hear, some of the rules disappear. So that comes back to that time, and that no such thing as being a writer, or no such thing rather as a writer. And I think it's important sometimes in our lives to take ourselves out of the career work, academic, um, financial mindset of what it is to be a writer, and come back to the heart of what it is and why we write in the first place, which is what I think the message was for these couple of days, because one of the exercises as well was writers are, and we had to write down our ideas of what writers are, and she wanted you to write them 5 times every day for a week, but I didn't really do that. But I did make a really long list of what I felt like writers are, and what I guess embodies what I feel is more in tune with me. And I'm going to make that list and actually put it on my blog as well, because I want to remember that. I know one of them is writers are storytellers, writers are dreamers, writers are galactic travelers. That to me really connects me with what it is that I am and who it is I am and what I want to offer to the world. Because for me, writing is an offering of my mind, soul, and body, and what I take in and what I want to put out. So it's been a very interesting week, and I really appreciated diving back into this again, and I'm looking forward to actually watching some other people's videos as well. But even just discussing how my writing has shifted this week as well. And the last exercise that we did, oh no, sorry, that was this week. I was going to jump the gun a bit, but I already did the first exercise for this week, and I am creating something that I have been wanting to create for a very, very long time, giving myself permission, taking it one step at a time, breaking things down, and I feel really connected to myself. So I kind of focused on feelings today, and I really wanted to be productive, and I really want to feel connected, and I really feel like I've tapped into those emotions today with my writing. So thank you guys for watching, and I hope you've had a fantastic week with the Right to Write, and I will be back next week to talk about how my writing went and anything that came up. So bye guys.